now. Here we go now. Here we go now. Here we go now.
Party, a lot of your fantasy football needs, injury news, Underdog, higher, lower, and Howard Bender right here for Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm. Howard, I was just sucked into your show today, and I'm very proud of Jim Bowden for not seeming so enthusiastic about this next matchup, which is our Dallas Cowboys facing your very different today than they were 2 days ago, New York Jets.
Come on, are you really going to patronize me like that? Are you really you're going to take the Dallas defense against Zach Wilson and you're going to be like, oh, I'm so worried about this game this week? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? That's like, I feel like that's like, it's almost cruel, Lisa. And I feel like, where's the love? Where's the joie de vivre with our relationship anymore? Why is it turned to just senseless, needless trolling like that?
I wasn't actually trolling. I was actually just complimenting Jim for being realistic because I don't know how we feel with the Jets defense. I am concerned and I understand that no one has any faith in Zach Wilson. But you know what, young man? I certainly do. I think he's a better quarterback than he was last season. I think this team is going to rally together because of the bond that they all formed. There was nothing more important than Aaron Rodgers could have done this offseason was exactly what he did. Built that chemistry in the locker room, spent time in New York, was at camp. It's I was devastated. This injury, this affects me in so many ways. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be on Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays, which means what book club am I not going to be in? Well, Aaron Rodgers does a book club every Tuesday. I read every book last year and the year before and the year before that. So I'm a little concerned. I'm worried about your feelings, but I do think you should have some faith in Zach Wilson.
I actually do have a little bit of faith in Zach Wilson. I'm not gonna totally crap on the kid. And what I'm really genuinely hoping for is that Rodgers just turns around and says, "I will spend all my time hurt, but I will spend as much time as I can mentoring Zach Wilson, getting into his ear during games, telling him what he's seeing. Like, give me Aaron Rodgers in the booth with a direct headset line into Zach Wilson, and I'll be incredibly happy with that." The problem that I have here right now, Lisa Ann, is that I feel incredibly let down, very empty inside. I'm not going to blame Aaron for the injury. I mean, these things happen. It was a calf injury, late in camp, and whatever. What I do is blame you in partial for my incredible sadness, because it was you who said you got to watch Hard Knocks.
I started the bromance. I
drank the Kool-Aid.
And I'm sorry, but that gave you even more empathy for the situation. I'm upset too, as a football fan, right? And living in New York, this has been deflating.
Wait a second. Am I concussed?
This is, it's been so incredibly deflating for everyone here. As he was such a big part of the conversation. Right before we went on air, Aaron Rodgers did put out his first Instagram post since the incident on Monday night. It's a great photo of him carrying the flag out onto the field. And it says, "Thank you to every person that has reached out, called, texted, DM'd, and connected through a friend, etc. It has meant a ton to me. And I'll try to get back to all of you soon. I'm completely heartbroken and moving through all the emotions, but deeply touched and humbled by the support and love. Please keep me in your thoughts and prayers as I begin the healing process today. The night is darkest before the dawn, and I shall rise yet again. Proud of my guys, 1-0 Jets."
Doesn't really make me feel better. I'm not gonna lie. It does not make me feel better at all. I'm very, very. I mean, this hurts. Again, I said I said it before, right? I mean, I was the last time I was this excited walking into a season was 1999, and what happened? Vinny Testaverde blew out his Achilles, you like early on in the game too. And so it's like why is a Jets fan? Why can I not have nice things, Lisa? I'm like, why does it have to be that? I don't think it has to be that way, and yet it's this way, and I don't
It
really
is.
understand.
It is this way, but I'll say I thought Zach Wilson not having that game scripted for him went out there and played his heart out. Lazard and him seemed to have a great connection. We already know how we feel about Garrett Wilson. So I'm sorry for you. We're going to talk about other injury news and other sadness for other players as well. But I know as a Jets fan, this is tough. But I am here to say I am not counting this team out. Defense is so good. They made Josh Allen look like he doesn't even know how to play football. I mean, they won that game. They saved the day, and Zach Wilson did exactly what he needed to do to be able to get the win. No more, no less.
Well, I mean, I don't even know where to go with it. I really don't even know where to go with it because listen, I want to remain optimistic. I think Breece Hall looked fantastic.
He looked great. He looked great.
Garrett Wilson comes down with that catch, a little bobble, but then he kind of pulls it in. That's all nice. Zach Wilson, he played, the offensive line didn't give him really that much time to throw, which of course now you got to face the Dallas defense and their pass rush. Like I fear for Zach Wilson's life in the hands of Micah Parsons. I think that it's going to be a very, very dangerous thing for the Jets offense. And if this offensive line doesn't gel the way it's supposed to, I mean, it really is going to be a problematic. I did say that if the Jets went 3-3 with their first 6 games, the back end of the schedule is very, very promising. So
after their bye week, because their bye week is 7 from 8 on, the schedule is tasty nice. I agree with you. And that works well for them, not just on the offensive side of the ball, but defense, in case some of them are a little bit run down. They get that bye week, they recharge, then they have an easier run. But let's talk about something more fun. It's not true when they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Now, I know we were both in Vegas. Some things stay there, some things do not. Wow, look at that, Brian, with the Vegas sign already. I went out there and took photos with it the other day. So you were there the opposite times as me. You were there Friday through Saturday. I was there Sunday. I was supposed to get in Sunday night. I didn't get into Monday morning. I had a 9-hour flight delay. 9 hours. 9 hours, okay? 9 hours, then 5 hours on the way back. Let's talk about you first. Did anything great happen to you in Vegas that didn't stay in Vegas?
It's kind of funny because I swooped on in to do the FFPC main event show with Eric Balkman. So I did the Fantasy Alarm show on Sirius XM Friday from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern, and then I immediately went to the airport, hopped a flight, and then by the time I got there, it was I don't know, it was probably like 10 o'clock. I was starving. I didn't eat anything at all during the day, so I tried to grab a quick bite, which, obviously when you order something up to your room on a Friday night, it takes forever to get there.
An hour and a half. I know. I've started to walk down to the room downstairs, no matter what. It takes forever.
Yeah. So I called it like a super early night, and that was it. And then the show the next day, was at 10 a.m. So I had to make sure that the Fantasy Alarm playbook was out before, I went down for the show. So that way I could help, obviously, all our DFS customers over at Fantasy Alarm, which, by the way, totally crushed the playbook. And I mean, it was just go to fantasyalarm.com/win. If you don't have a subscription, fantasyalarm.com/win. All right. Cause you can take a 7-day free trial, check out everything that we've got over there. And then, if you choose to stay with us, then great, then super. If you don't,
and to make it super easy to everybody, at 6:50, a tweet went out of my timeline with that exact link. All you got to do is click it and you're in. 7-day free trial, Fantasy Alarm. Do it. Just do it.
Lock it down. You're going to love it because you're going to make money playing DFS. You're going to make money, betting. Last week, I went 9-1 on my best bets for the NFL. And then if you looked at go look at the watch list that I put out today for week 2, we're going to talk about it a little later, but go and look at that because I put in what the what the example lineups did and what the optimal lineups from that playbook did. Would have taken down the Sunday Million on FanDuel. Only would have finished in second place in the Millie Maker for a paltry $200,000. But
I want winners.
Yeah, we all want winners. Well, and you easy travel from the West Coast. You're flying what, 45 minutes an hour to get you from
yeah, it was
Vegas?
like an hour 10. It was super easy, but the show was fantastic. I'll tell you what I loved the most about it. I loved the crowd. The crowd was phenomenal. I had one dude walk past me, hold up the fantasy alarm cheat sheet. Right? I was like, get over here so we could take a picture.
Did you hug it out? Did you dap it up? Did you dap it up? Did you hug it out? I mean, it's all about the dap. Shake the dap. Yeah.
See,
it's a big deal.
You need to teach me these things because I'm just,
I don't think I'm quite familiar with that phrase.
No, I definitely am not familiar. But like I met some really cool people. There was this girl, Angela. She was really cool. You would have loved her. Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys baseball cap and a Dak Prescott jersey.
Oh, Angela, shout out.
Right?
All right, just representing all the right ways.
Doing like her third high stakes draft with the FFPC. So I mean, It was like, so she was crushing it. Mark, the guy who showed me the cheat sheet. I mean, just everybody that was there. There were so many people who were just, listen to me on Sirius XM, watch me on these shows here on the Better Sports Network. And I so appreciated that. It was a lot of fun. And then my producer, Adam Bernard, and I, as soon as it was over, we grabbed lunch and we were back at the airport, and that was it.
Oh, Adam's a great guy. That's awesome. You guys got to spend a little bit of time. It's those little quick meals we get with our people where we get to catch up on what's going on with their family and how they are and all these things. Sounds like you had a good trip.
Tell me about yours.
Well, I will never do this again. I do not ever want to do this again. I am so scarred by what happened to the fact that I even considered that I was going to fly on the very first Sunday of the NFL season. Who wants to do that? Nobody, right? Nobody. But okay, it's the first Monday night. Sapphire in Vegas has a big event. They give away TVs. There's all this catered food. They actually flew the chef from the club here that I work on Thursdays out there. No big deal. I'll only get to miss a couple of games. I'll sit at the airport. I'll get there early. I'll watch the late slate at the airport. And next thing you know, I try and find an airport bar playing football. Guess what? They're all playing the U.S. Open. I got beside myself. The U.S. Open, it's the first Sunday of the NFL. Why? And I wasn't the only one. I was not alone on this island. Now, luckily, some YouTube TV was happening on my phone. Then my other phone was chimed in at Sirius XM, getting the play-by-play from the local. This was my whole from 5 o'clock until midnight. No TVs NFL on. So, of course, by the time I rolled into Vegas at 5:30 in the morning, I'm not a happy camper. I am like, okay, I've got to relive all these games, rewatch all these games. But it was worth it. But now that I'm back, my image of Sunday of like in sweats with as much healthy snack food surrounding me not answering my phone other than maybe a tweet in X, whatever you want to call those things nowadays, and just being where I'm supposed to be like a normal person on my couch in front of my TV, not asking a bartender why the U.S. Open is more important than NFL.
So weird. You would think like an airport flying to and from Vegas. Like, I mean, you would think that like football takes massive priority.
They all told me everybody coming to JFK right now is coming from the U.S. Open and we've got to cater to this crowd while they're sitting here. I'm like, so
gross.
That was gross. It was very gross. We'll never do it again. I feel I'm over it now, but a little bit scarred because it's the first. I did rewatch a bunch of the games. It's not the same as being in it with everybody else. Play-by-play is great, but it's not the same. It's a great layer to add on, but it shouldn't be the only. And so I got back in yesterday morning, and then just now I'm going to be glued to my own couch on Sundays forever.
Yeah. I am in that very same boat. I mean, I came back from Vegas, but like I like my Saturdays because I know how hectic Sundays are. I like to do the playbook before the wife gets up, before we take the dogs out for a nice leisurely stroll on the beach. Because I admire anybody who loves college football the way they love college football, but I honestly don't give a crap. I really don't. I don't have any kind of vested interest in it whatsoever. I grew up in New York City. So, what was I going to do? I was going to I couldn't root for Rutgers back then. And I'm certainly wasn't going to root for the NYU Violets. That wasn't a football program that anybody wanted to see. It was Big East basketball. That's what it was all about when I was growing up. So, yeah, the college football bug never bit me, and I stay, far away from it. So I feel good about that.
I think we have to avoid burnout, because we know we're going to go so heavy Sunday mornings, whether it's helping your listeners with startup lineup questions, doing live streams, setting your own lineups, which can become stressful when you're trying to get out an injury report for the day on Sunday, but yet you still have to do some tinkering in your own lineups. Before I forget, this month, it's a very special month, everybody. And thank you to everybody here in the chat. You're just the best. This month marks 10 years that, thanks to Matt Deutsch, who just told us that we are looking good and sounding good, thanks to Matt Deutsch, that I have been able to run my mouth talking fantasy football and sports betting. 10 years. I mean, where did these 10 years go? Howard, I met you. Like, it's been a blip. It's been so much fun. I've met so many incredible people. The world just keeps growing and expanding. I had Hutch as my guest on my podcast, which released today, the Lisa Ann Experience. He's such a unique kid. I've met him through listening to you. So this is a big thank you. Thank you, Matt. Thank you to everybody who's helped me along this journey. And thank you to all the listeners and followers that have supported me pivoting in my life and being here. 10-year anniversary is this month.
Wow. Happy anniversary. I had no idea it was your 10-year. I would have baked a cake. I would have done so many other things. I don't even have, I got my paperback copy of Lisa, The Life Back, right? And that's sitting here. But now I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared for this. I'm going to throw you the hugest party on next week's show. The hugest party on next week's show. It's going to blow you away.
I went into the building today. I went into SiriusXM this morning to be on the Morning Man, just be a guest with the guys. And it just felt good to walk through there. And I took it slow. And I just remembered every moment, from Matt walking me to get my photo taken for the ID that you needed to get in and out of the building. Like, every little moment and how much it means to me. So I know what means a lot right now is what's happening with the waiver wire craze. I hear you talking about it. A lot of people talk about the fact that if you don't need to make moves, don't make moves. Well, I had Aaron Rodgers in 7 leagues. So, I had him in a ton of best balls. I'm almost more upset about best ball, because now I lose him as a quarterback for the whole season. At least in a season long, I can make moves. I never draft one quarterback in a single quarterback. I always have a backup, because I am not going to be panicked. But I will tell you, to celebrate my theory that I think Zach Wilson can be good, I picked him up in a bunch of leagues when I was stuck at the airport on my way back from the club, because I had 4 hours to work the waiver wire, and I memorized the whole thing on the way there and then made my pull downs on the way home.
So, all right. So, I did it too. I had one super flex league that I had Aaron Rodgers. In other leagues where I drafted Rodgers as a backup in a single QB league, that I was like, all right, I don't need, obviously I can just kind of replace him and see what happens, in the coming weeks. But in a super flex league, you got to make that move. And Zach Wilson was literally the only QB,
only quarterback there. Exactly.
Like, even
Yep.
preseason, that first waiver wire period, people like scooped up like the Will Levises and, some of those other backup QBs. And so Wilson was the only one there. And I don't even feel like I put a huge bid on him. It was 21% of my fab. But I feel like, because it's a super flex league, that QB is so important to have, that you kind of have to do that. So that I did that move there. But what about your other waivers? Like, did you drink the Puka Nakua Kool-Aid there? Did you jump in on, how about Joshua Kelly, knowing that that Austin Eckler now dealing with an ankle injury and could potentially actually miss? Adam Schefter said the other, like a couple of hours ago, that there was a chance that Eckler could miss the game. Did you go after like any other waiver wire people?
I didn't. I did pick up Romeo Dubs in a couple of leagues because he was sitting there. I'm going to go with something a little bit more consistent than a wild card, right? I also drafted really heavy in the running back room this season, because so many people were doing zero RB strategies. So I
Right.
didn't feel like I needed to get rid of a great player when I'm already really stacked. And I have Alvin Kamara in almost 50% of my leagues, waiting for that week 3 to pass and me to get him in week 4. So I didn't make any of those type of moves. I just stuck with whatever I could do to be consistent. I will say I have a couple bench MVPs, and I'm trying to pull one for you right now. You know, that's the player that you leave on your bench that you had a vibe about, and then you didn't put him in your lineup. I'll figure out who, and then that person goes off. But I didn't feel that I had to make moves other than in a situation replacing Aaron Rodgers. That's it for me. That's where I'm like, okay, I got to do that. I didn't have any shares of J.K. Dobbins in any of my leagues. How about you?
No, I had no J.K. Dobbins, and listen, I'm of that same ilk. I say it. I even tweeted it out. If you don't have to make a move, then don't. There was nobody on the waiver wire that I'm looking at, and I'm like, this guy's going to be a league winner. You could look at Puka Nacua and be like, oh, well, the dude saw 15 targets. Yeah, okay, but what happens in 3 weeks when Cooper Kupp comes back? Now, granted, if Cooper Kupp doesn't come back, then Nacua could be a great spot, a great guy to grab. But I saw people spend 40-50% of their fab budget in week 1 on Puka Nacua. And I don't get it. I really didn't get it. Not to mention the fact that, everybody's sitting there overreacting to week 1. They're giving up on Kadarius Toney. They're giving up on Sky Moore. They're giving up on Jalen Hyatt. I've seen people, people rage drop Daniel Jones, Antonio Gibson. Like, why, like, to sit there and like dump those guys because of a bad week 1 where, like, I don't think anybody realizes just how sloppy week 1 was this week. Did you Sunday's games, 10 out of the 14 games, it was the under that hit. 3 games.
And then Monday night's game was the under as well. I will say, here's my bench MVP. Now, this is a wild card pickup in a last round of a draft, but it was Austin Eckler's backup, but not who you'd think. I had Kyren Williams.
Oh, there you go. So you ended up grabbing Kyren Williams from the Rams. I didn't play him. Yeah, but it doesn't matter if you played him or not. It doesn't matter. The fact that you have him means that you were ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I was just trying to take a viable player in the last round of this one draft. It was like, okay, and then I saw how he stacked. Now I'm not going to chase those points. I gave advice on Monday. The first 2 weeks, your waiver wire needs should be, if you are replacing an injury, for sure. And if you do have a great feeling about a player, but you should be trusting your draft. If you just picked up 2 players the last round as bookends and you don't care about them, go for it. But do not go back to your draft and be like, oh, Kadarius Toney, I'm just going to drop him for this one-hit wonder that might not have a big week next week.
Yeah.
Just to make a move.
Well, that's the thing. And then, if you're jumping out of waiver priority. I had somebody who was like, yeah, I got the 12th waiver priority and I'm looking to do this and that. And I was like, if you don't have to make a move and you're that far back, like, you're not going to get the top guys. You're not going to get Joshua Kelly. You're not going to get Puka Nacua. You're not going to get, any of these players that people are looking at. So why make the move when you know that you're going to move up in waiver priority? If, like, let's say 5 or 6 people make moves, then boom, then all of a sudden you've got the 5th or 6th, waiver priority now instead of the last waiver priority. So, to me, I very sage advice, very sound advice. You know what, Lisa Ann, see, this is why how long have you and I been doing shows together now?
It's got to be over 5 years. It's got to be, because I've lived in New York since 2019 full time, and we were doing shows when I was living back in LA.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were doing some afternoon baseball shit-ish.
We were.
I was like still trying to, like, Matt, yes, I will do baseball. Now I'm like, no, I'm not about that life. But we might not have Christian McCaffrey this weekend. Sad news, his agent suddenly passed away. We've heard that he might not be available. Aaron Jones did not practice on Wednesday. Did you expect Aaron Jones to have the day that he had out there on Sunday?
If I say yes, will you believe me?
Did you play him in any of your leagues?
I played him everywhere in DFS.
Oh, okay. I played him in a couple leagues.
I played him in leagues that I had him because I drafted Aaron Jones for that, for that whole thing. But I jammed him in. He was in my cash lineups. He was in my GPP lineups over at Fantasy Alarm. So yes, Lisa Ann, I did believe that. And the hamstring injury was a huge bummer, but at least he delivered the goods before he left the game.
Now, this is a two-part news cycle, and the important part I'm going to handle right here for everybody. Scream Daddy says the Bears suck. The first 3 weeks, you got to be careful. People will blow up a game, will do nothing for the rest of the season. You're so right. Travis Kelce, knee, he did return to practice. Did you hear that not only is Travis Kelce a Swiftie, but sources are saying that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have been hanging out?
Yeah, so real funny about all of that. Jim Bowden says no. He's like Travis Kelce's a great guy to go party with, but this is not somebody who, Taylor Swift should or will be getting involved. That was Jim's take. My take about it.
I would like to argue with Jim. She's been with all these different musician people as well. They can't
That's
be
what I'm
more
saying.
stable.
But she does have a history of like choosing the wrong guy. Let's face facts. John Mayer was a total douche. And, I don't even know
But these guys make her make the best music.
That's what Sham Blood said. She was like, I'm in for this because I want new music.
I want new music, and I want it to be about our first NFL player. I want this music to be about, and I think they're great together because he's tall and she's tall. They're a super cute couple. She'll be hanging out with Brittany, Patrick Mahomes' wife, I'm talking about. I've got this all planned out. I think it's fantastic. I want to see her at a game, but it did concern me if maybe they've been hanging out too much, and that's why he wasn't able to play last Thursday.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have that inside scoop on that. I was just kind of blown away by the news because, I had seen a TikTok video where it was a video of a Taylor Swift getting the call that, there was somebody outside, there was a football player outside who wanted to come backstage and see her and say hi. And she said, she was like, Kelce. And, obviously, like, you just hearing her side of it, she's like, Kelce? Is it Jason? Oh, well, then no, forget it. So, like, all of a sudden, you were like, is she throwing us off the scent here?
Well, he had made her, those bracelets are a big thing. If you're a Swiftie, you make friendship bracelets, and he had made her a friendship bracelet with his phone number on it. And she doesn't talk to people before or after her shows. So he didn't get a chance, but he made a bunch of news with it. So I guess she finally did reach out. Very important news. We will keep you all well informed, as Justin Fields has kept us informed that he feels he played a bit too conservative on Sunday. What's your take on Justin Fields, or do you feel we have not seen enough yet so far this season to truly judge?
I don't think we've seen enough. I mean, again, not going to overreact to week one. I know Luke Getsy called a terrible game, and it just didn't look good. There was bad play calling, bad execution. And so, but I look at this, and so here's my thing with this game: Chicago against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Are we overvaluing what Tampa Bay did against a bad Minnesota defense in week one, and then looking at how bad Chicago looked in week one? That now the Bears are visiting Tampa Bay, a team that everybody's crapped on throughout the entire offseason, and now the Bucs are a 3-point favorite at home. I'm not so sure about that. So I feel like I'm more than willing to give Justin Fields a second and probably a third chance here for the way the season's going to start. It'll take a little time to get in the groove, but again, week one was sloppy by so many teams. It wasn't just the Bears.
It was, and we waited so long for football. And then what we saw was just like, what is this? What is happening right now? We're going to continue with these updates. I have put a bunch of polls out for our higher or lower segment that we do with Underdog Fantasy. So go to my timeline during this break. Make sure you cast your vote. That's at The Real Lisa Ann. Howard and I will be right back. You're listening to Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm.
What can we expect from you out there on the track tonight?
Listen, I have a wife, 2 kids. I have, full-time jobs. I'm never nervous. I don't even know what that word means. Can you explain what nervous means? No. I'm ready to have fun. I've never done anything like this before. I got asked to be a part of this. This is fascinating. Like, it's so cool to just look around and see what goes on here. So I'm just excited to get out on the horse. And you want trash talk? Is that what you're asking me for? No trash talk. I hope everyone does well.
All right, everyone's going to do well, but it has to be a winner. So give me your trifecta. Who's going to come in first, second, and third? Your heat.
I will go Maria 1, me 2, Willie 3, Moose goes 4th.
Well, it's very simple. I won this event last year. I won my heat, and so the defending champ has to be the favorite. Now, that makes me a little nervous just because I feel like it's hard to repeat. There's a little pressure when you're the favorite, but that being said, I'm still optimistic.
So your heat, it's you,
Yes.
Moose and Keith from Better Sports Network, and Willie Colon.
I think Keith might be my stiffest competition, and I asked for this because I actually recruited Keith, if you didn't know. So Keith, if you win, you're welcome.
Malusis is very good. I mean, he knows what he's doing, but I'm going to go with Maria.
Keith is waving to the crowd. He must pay attention because they're off. It's Mark Malusis going for the lead. Maria Marino on the outside, and now Keith Irizarry on the outside with speed, and they're 3 wide into the first turn. Woo! Mark Malusis is locked in for his life. 138 and 2. They're into the stretch. Sportscasters Derby 2. And still in front, Keith Irizarry. And now Mark Malusis is trying to squeeze on through.
Come on, Jack! Come on! Let's go! Come on, dig it! Yeah!
Keith Irizarry. Keith, you did it all the way, wire to wire. Over Mark Malusis.
Awesome! That was so cool!
The champ is here! Keith, what was it like being out there? Adrenaline rush. You were doing the Instagram Live, so there was no panic. You looked cool, calm, collected the whole time, and you won it.
I felt really comfortable. I did. Like, I know you were joking with me before. Are you nervous? Are you whatever? What are you? David, the driver, was awesome. He's like, we're going to win this. I said, all right, let's win this. And he said, let's go. Yeah, I just felt really comfortable. I did. It was fun. We're in the lead. I got Maria Marino on the right side of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to beat us, right? And then out of nowhere, you see Moose coming up this way, and we feel him breathing down our neck. And I'm like,
Moose
no,
on the loose. Watch out.
Moose was definitely on the loose, and we just got Moose by a neck, a nose, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but again, all of this for a great cause, and it was absolutely awesome to do this. It was cool.
All right, Keith, congratulations, and no matter what, you could always hold this over Moose's head.
Yeah!
We are back with you right here. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor. Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here with you on Better Sports Network on Fantasy Alarm. And by the way, I'd love to do that. Would you? Can we do a derby for the broadcasters on this network?
I would love for us to do something like that. I feel the need to slim down because that poor damn horse having to tug my fat ass around there. I feel like that might be animal cruelty, actually.
We call that cutting weight in the UFC world. You're willing to cut some weight, okay? You're gonna get a cut so you can weigh in. All right, we got this.
Put me in a steam room with a garbage bag around me.
It does work. Let's go through a couple more of these news and notes for our listeners here. Philadelphia Inquirer's Jeff McLean reports that Kenneth Gainwell with the ribs is trending toward not playing Thursday night against the Vikings. My opinion, too short of a recovery. No need to play him. There's a long season ahead. He'll get a nice amount of rest after this Thursday night game. What do you say there, Howard?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I feel like he's almost been officially ruled out for tomorrow. And, they've got, Rashad Penny, who they'll activate. And so, yeah, I think Swift and Penny share the role. Boston Scott gets brought in. So I think that's what's happening. I don't know if you heard the beginning of the Fantasy Alarm show, but I'll say it here because I'm curious as to your thoughts. I feel like it should be mandatory that waivers be done in fantasy football on Wednesday night into Thursday. Like, just do it Wednesday night at midnight, going into Thursday. Then, you can open it up for a first come, first serve kind of a thing and go from there. Like, there's so much injury news that comes out right now on Wednesday, and so many guys who miss practice, that I feel like waivers needs to happen on Wednesday night. It needs to be mandatory in leagues.
I can see that, but at the same time, some of us work in time constraints, so we need a larger window of it being open so that we can get to it.
I don't know about that.
I get it. I get it. If you could still, I get rearranging it and see why.
Think about this. Think about this, right? The news comes out today that, Adam Schefter reports that that Austin Eckler is likely to miss this game. If you ran waivers on Tuesday night, right, maybe you would have been more into picking up Joshua Kelce if you had known that news happened. And I think that also, it makes it a little bit more competitive, that there are some people who might have to blow their fab budget on Joshua Kelce on Wednesday when they hear the news, because they know that they want that guy or that they need that guy that much. But on Tuesday, if you're somebody like you or me, who wasn't really that active in waivers, maybe we would have been more active in waivers had we had known that news ahead of time. That's what my issue is.
May I take credit? Thank you so much, Jeff. Scrimp Daddy in the room. One of the leagues that I commissioned, it's the only league that does have a fab budget. Our waiver wire was set for Wednesday nights.
Smart. See?
So that's on Fantrax, did that league there. So there's that. Christian Watson hamstring didn't practice. Romeo Doubs hamstring was limited. I feel better about Doubs right now than I do Watson. How about you?
I feel much better about Romeo Doubs than I do Christian Watson. Watson had this hamstring issue last year, and that held him out of the beginning of the season. He showed up late on the injury report this past week, missed week 1. Doubs at least played through his limited participation in practice and obviously delivered in style. So I'm very nervous about Christian Watson. It would not surprise me. It means, you hold on to Jaden Reed for another week and see what happens.
Texans wide receiver John Mechie with his hamstring returned to practice today. I'm not really looking for the Texans offense at this point. New York Daily News.
Come on, Nico Collins had 10 targets. No love for Nico Collins?
I have Nico Collins. I have no John Mechie, but I do have a couple shares of Nico Collins, not going to lie. New York Daily News, Pat Leonard reports that Darren Waller's hamstring injury could be a lingering issue. When Darren Waller was making the move from the Las Vegas Raiders, the New York Giants, the excitement was there, but there was many of us that had that question mark with the injury history. Is this what we're going to be living through this season? Because I think he's one of Daniel Jones' best targets available for the no score yet in 2023 New York Giants.
Yeah, I'm super nervous about it. I'm not going to lie. I've got Waller in a spot or two. I didn't over-invest in him because I was more eyeballing tight ends in rounds 9 and 10 and going for the lower ones there. As somebody who's social agenda is directly tied to the New York Giants on Sundays. You would not believe how mad Deborah was on that. Now, you can giggle now because you're yeah, it's the Cowboys. The Cowboys did that. But she was so grouchy. She stormed off midway through the third quarter, right? Left me and the dog sitting out there doing, nothing, just watching the games. And then when she came back out an hour later and the game was over and I was like, all right, I gotta, get ready for bed. She's like, why don't you stay here and watch whatever football you think you might need to watch again. And then, and I'll take the dogs. And she took the dogs and she went into the bedroom, locked me out of as if I was the one who was rooting for the Cowboys or whatever.
Poor Deborah. Poor Deb.
Crazy.
Did you get her something on Monday to make her feel better? Some flowers, something?
I got her the damn silent treatment. I was like, damn, I got to focus up here for the Jets on Monday. I can't have that bad energy, I couldn't believe it, Lisa Ann. I didn't even know what to do. Buy her something? Gift her something? No, I can't. I can't handle that on a Sunday.
You're not interested in sex?
No, I was. She was not. Not. And then you know what? I tried to double down and get like a little Jets victory nookie. Did that work on Monday? No, it did not. Why? Because the stupid Giants lost 40-0, and Darren Waller's hamstring is like a crunchy Cheeto. He's about to be slammed in a door.
Yeah. Okay. So Byron in the room just brought up Deontay Johnson, and it's kind of like, Byron, we're locking you out of the room right now because you're going to be locked out for about 4 weeks. That's what Deontay Johnson is supposed to miss with that hamstring situation. Does this help my George Pickens shares in a big way?
I feel like it does. I feel like Allen Robinson kind of, he moves up a little bit into that, pass catching, move the chain sort of a way. And I think Pickens on the deep plays, I think that we're going to see a little bit more, love his way. I think it's a good matchup, I think, for Pittsburgh this week in the sense that, they can overcome this injury. But for those of us who drafted Deontay Johnson, it's a huge, huge bummer. Huge.
Yeah, because of where you drafted him, right? You're drafting him early, and you're putting him on your IR if you have that spot pretty quickly into the season. Game one.
I get this attitude. I get this attitude at home, Lisa, and I don't need it here at work too.
Well, luckily you're getting to work from home, so you can get the attitude right there in the same space as you're used to it. But now let's get out a time machine. Okay, let's say we're getting out a time machine. When I read the name Tariq Cohen, I think of a time machine, and obviously so does he, because ESPN's Adam Schefter reports that running back Tariq Cohen is re-entering the NFL and planning to sign to the Carolina Panthers practice squad. Hello, what year is this right now? And let's just call back Adrian Peterson. I mean, Melvin Gordon's on the move. Like, I feel like we're reliving a lot of the past 5 years right now.
Yeah, I heard that somebody said something to Tariq Cohen that Deuce Vaughn was the littlest guy on the field. And I think Tariq Cohen was like, damn, I used to be the littlest guy. Meanwhile, Darren Sproles hopped out of somebody's pocket, was like, hey, don't forget me, guys. I'm right here too.
I'm right here. I used to love to see Darren Sproles or even Tariq Cohen when they'd go up to the huddle. That it was almost like they could duck in and stand in the center and not be blocking anybody's vision, or just come right in there. This doesn't move the needle. Don't anybody respond or react to this news. None of this matters. Okay. I'm just letting you know Cam Hayward has a groin injury and will undergo surgery and could miss up to 8 weeks.
Yeah, big blow for the Pittsburgh defense. Big blow. They're playing Cleveland this week. It is a good matchup for it would have been a good matchup for Cam Hayward going up against this offensive line for Cleveland, which is really strong. So I think this obviously, not that anybody needs to be turned on to Nick Chubb and told to play him and start him, but Cam Hayward not being around on that defensive line is definitely going to help out Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson.
It's crazy to think that we're only facing week 2, Howard, and we're already talking about how a missing element from one team is going to add to something else for another team. This is normally like, hey, play your tight ends against the Arizona Cardinals. You're good. Now you're going to get more bang for your buck from Nick Chubb, who you're already getting so much from. I mean, that's incredible. A couple more news and notes, and I want to go through a couple of these games to talk about why people are overreacting and what we shouldn't be looking at. So ESPN's Field Yates reports that the Bengals have released T. La'el Collins, and the New York Giants LT Andrew Thomas hamstring underwent an MRI and avoided a long-term injury, but may still miss some time.
Yeah, the La'el Collins is obviously interesting because I did hear that that New England kind of checked him out and wanted to see what's going on with him. He's had a knee issue. It's been a lingering problem. It was a lingering problem when he was in Dallas. I thought that if he was over it, he would really help bolster that line. So releasing him, I think that's just kind of that's an over and done with situation there. The Andrew Thomas situation, that's actually, it's kind of funny. I worry about this Giants offensive line. I'm trying not to overreact to the drubbing that they took in week 1, but all of a sudden I'm also kind of wondering, they're playing Arizona. It's in Arizona. You got to travel. The offensive line isn't 100% healthy. And, you figure if the Giants had just put up a remote fight against Dallas, if let's say Dallas won that one 21-10 or 28-17 or something like that, that the point spread, because we all expect Arizona to be so bad, that the point spread would be like a touchdown point spread. If you believed in the Giants and you don't believe in the Arizona Cardinals, then it would be a 7-point spread, but it's only a 5-point spread. So now the question is like, or is everybody going to be like, oh, well, the Giants are going to bounce back. They can easily beat Arizona by a touchdown. So I'm just going to lay the 5 and take that gift. Or is that like the sucker bet in Vegas? And now, the books are saying, yeah, go ahead, take it, because Arizona +5 could be the play.
Let's talk about what people may or may not be panicking about after week 1.
Oof.
We're going to start with the fact that Kansas City is a much different team without Travis Kelce. That Thursday night game was mind-blowing. Look, the Detroit Lions have some grit, and I really like it. It's gritty. But the missing link of Tyreek Hill was very different because Travis Kelce was still there. I was surprised to see how poorly it was. Just a sloppy game for Kansas City, and I get it. It was kind of last minute that Travis Kelce was scratched, right? I'm not worried about Kansas City. I think this is going to work out. But how many times, we should look up the stat at break. I'll look it up. How many Kadarius Toney drops were there? And I mean not his. I mean from teams, from leagues, dropped back to the waiver wire. It's an overreaction if you ask me. You don't have to play him week 2, but I just don't know if you should ditch him yet.
Yeah, I mean, one of the funniest things is when you see rage drops in fantasy, and people swapping out Kadarius Toney so that they can pick up Tutu Atwell, or, they're going to, go all in. They're going to drop Antonio Gibson, and they're going to push the chips all in on a Gus Edwards or a Justice Hill. Yeah,
Justice Hill. Oh.
Right.
Just step away. Okay.
Like, why are we doing this, people?
Why are we doing this? Now, Joe Burrow really flipped out the minds of many. There's a lot of concern in Cincinnati. Again, no need for it, but he did not even crack 100 yards of passing on Sunday. Joe Burrow also didn't get a full camp. Had that calf. When was that? Like week 1 of camp?
Yeah. I mean, it was early on in camp, but I mean, the calf injury, obviously it definitely can linger. It can be problematic. And nobody in Cincinnati wants to say Joe Burrow's calf injury could lead to an Achilles injury like it happened to Aaron Rodgers. So I think they're going to, they're staying, cautious with him. It's really kind of funny. You look at the Bengals and you expect them to bounce back because, I mean, maybe there's no rain in the forecast and, whatever. But this Ravens defense can be really, really strong, really, really disruptive. Could you imagine the Bengals starting the season 0-2?
0-2. I mean, okay, we've got a question here, and it's always important with questions. I know you get this when people call into your shows as well. Give us first and last name, because there are chances and situations where there's two, like right here, we have this question from Dylan. Full PPR, are you trading Herbert and Hollywood Brown for Gibbs? Now, do you mean Justin Herbert is what I'm assuming, or maybe he means
Khalil Herbert?
Maybe. So yes, give us, there it is. Okay. I wasn't sure. Okay. So the question of this trade is full PPR. Are you trading Khalil Herbert and Hollywood Brown for Jahmyr Gibbs?
In a heartbeat, in an absolute heartbeat.
Like, Dylan, in a heartbeat.
I mean,
do the trade.
Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be, I'm sure Dan Campbell will continue to ease him in. I expect that, just like I expect Tyler Algier to get, some work there and in relief of Bijan Robinson. But I mean, Gibbs, if you watched him in that game, I mean, he was explosive, great speed, bounced off of players, like yards after contact were solid for him. So, I look at that and I think that Gibbs is a guy who can really blossom in this offense if the Detroit Lions use him properly. Khalil Herbert's always going to share that role, whether it's with Deonta Foreman, whether it's with Roshan Johnson. And then, I'm sorry, but, Josh Dobbs or Clayton Tune or, even Kyler Murray for that matter, in Arizona. No, I'd be fine giving up Hollywood Brown and Khalil Herbert. Oh, yeah. Do that in a
No,
smash.
he's giving up. Yeah, you're right. He is giving up Khalil Herbert and Hollywood. I would do that as well.
Yeah.
Right there. Now, Byron was very nice. When you make a good call before the season and somebody on Twitter or X doesn't agree with your call, I would like the call back. It was like it ricocheted off the bounce board, came right back to me because Byron was like, you kind of were right about Calvin Ridley. I'm sorry I wasn't in. Calvin Ridley and Trevor Lawrence. By the way, I've got ETN, Ridley, and Lawrence in a league, which I know was crazy too heavy, but the way they fell to me, I did it. I wasn't sure how I was going to play it. Luckily, that's a league where Aaron Rodgers was my backup quarterback and he was on my bench. I only played Aaron Rodgers in 2 out of the 7 leagues I have him this week. 2.
Oh, that's not bad.
I'd feel blessed. I
I
wanted to see what that looked like. But, these Jags, really fun to watch. Trevor Lawrence is looking great. I don't think there's any reason to overreact. But if you weren't in on Calvin Ridley, don't think you're going to be able to get him in a trade right now because his value is just going to go up, up, up. And if I get past bye weeks, I'm going to use him as a trade piece in a couple of leagues where I'm a little bit too heavy in wide receivers.
Yeah, I'm all in on the Jags. Last year I said it was willing to give the Jaguars a complete mulligan when they got rid of Urban Meyer and they bring in Doug Peterson, who puts a legitimate, proven winning offensive scheme together. Getting Calvin Ridley, I know people were nervous. Oh, he's been off for 2 years, blah, blah. This isn't the same as Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson, with everything hanging over his head and being off for 2 years, playing quarterback, a lot different than playing wide receiver. And Ridley stayed in phenomenal shape. He came into camp looking great, had the speed. He's got the physicality, and he's developed already a very, very quick, strong rapport with Trevor Lawrence. I love it. And this game against the Chiefs this weekend is going to be an absolute barn burner. 51 is the game total. I'm probably hitting that over.
I would too, because I think it's going to move up as we get the confirmation that Travis Kelce is going to be back.
Yeah.
We might even see that go up to 55, 57. So now's the time to get in your bets on that one. Another spot where I think there could be a little bit overreaction. I'm going to take it right here and talk about the Cowboys-Giants game. To me, this was a sloppy game. I love that our defense really won this game for us. I'm of course, happy in the leagues where I have Tony Pollard. But as for Dak, not getting a touchdown up there, not breaking 150 yards. The Giants defense is good, but they're not that good. How do you think Dak looked? And do you think this was just a really fluky week 1 for the Dallas Cowboys that luckily are able to, like the Jets, lean on their defense to get the win?
Well, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how this plays out because no, Dak didn't play a great game. CeeDee Lamb did not have a great game. Brandon Cook's now dealing with a knee injury. The Jets defense makes the Giants defense look like maybe the Bears defense. I'm a firm believer here that this is not going to be a walk in the park for Dallas because you're looking at a phenomenal Jets defense, which to me is a top 3 defense, going up against the Cowboys. And on the other side, you got the Cowboys going up, the Cowboys defense taking on Zach Wilson. So I think both offenses are going to have some issues this week. This is a game where I feel like I'm going to smash that under, and I'm going to look to start both defenses in DFS. I'll use the Dallas defense, against Zach Wilson. I'll use that Jets D against Dak, who does not look like he is, completely sharp yet.
And before I move over to the other side of the ball, great callback there, Howard Bender. Everybody, we are doing our week 2 DFS challenge. It's a free challenge on DraftKings, open to 200 players. I've been tweeting the link out on my timeline at the Real Lisa Ants. When we take a break at the top of the hour, make sure you go and secure your team. Believe it or not, Howard, by the time I woke up Thursday morning of last week, the 200 players was already full. It's so exciting that many people want to jump in right away. And we will read the winning lineup later on in tonight's show. But on the other side of the ball, you mentioned earlier, people are rage dropping Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Whoa, Daniel Jones, 104 yards and 2 interceptions. Was it the yips? Does he have the yips? Is this going to be better? What do you think for the New York Giants?
I feel like that offensive line really kind of crumbled in the face of that pass rush. I mean, the front seven for Dallas is incredibly strong. And then you think about what's in the secondary. You got Gilmore on one side, Diggs on the other. So, I mean, the defense from top to bottom is absolutely fantastic. So I think it was a tough matchup for Daniel Jones. And then, what was it? You've seen the movie The Replacements, right? Shane Falco said
Such a great movie.
Right? Quicksand. And it's like, all of a sudden, like everything just starts going wrong for you over and over and over again. And the next thing you know, you're throwing multiple interceptions. And so you end up like that for the Giants. So I think they'll definitely have a rebound here against the Arizona Cardinals. I think we'll see Saquon. I think we'll see Daniel Jones, and hopefully Darren Waller as well. Just, I'll just kind of turn it out a little bit better.
And on the last side of this, before we hit that break at the top of the hour, we have to talk about the Monday night game and not the Aaron Rodgers part about it, the Josh Allen part about it. This was very concerning. The Bills just got routed by the Jets defense. I want to see them in another setting, in another matchup, to see if there's not as much panic. But now I feel like it's kind of like Joe Burrow seems to have Patrick Mahomes' number, right? The Bengals seem to play real well against the Chiefs. Boy, this is going to be in this kid's head forever. Josh Allen's going to remember. He's going to have nightmares about this Jets defense. Do you think these 3 interceptions were problematic or just a situation of the Jets defense really paying attention to what Josh Allen was doing?
Yeah, I think I'm siding on the defensive side here. I mean, I think Josh Allen's a fantastic quarterback, and he's going to have good games. He's going to have great games. He's going to have some bad games. Again, tough defense to square up against. And then again, once that momentum keeps building in game, the Jets were completely deflated. And then all of a sudden they got that spark from the defense with the interception, the second interception, I think it was, for Whitehead. And so like it just kind of, again, spiraled out of control there for Josh Allen. They just could not kind of get things back on track. So, huge win for the Jets defense there. And, I think that, Josh Allen going up against the Raiders this week, I mean, the Raiders defense does not good.
This is what I'd like to call a get right game for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Am I right?
Sure.
This is a get right game. You're playing the Raiders. You're going to put some points up. You're definitely not going to be under the pressure that you were under week 1. But I mean, it's a big stage. It's the Monday night game. It's a very big moment. The weather didn't help. And every single player is just on the beaten path of complaining about the turf at MetLife Stadium.
Well, I'm not. Everybody's mandating. Didn't somebody mandate the Players Association was like, we want all grass on every field now?
There have been a lot of season-ending injuries on that field at MetLife Stadium. And it's an interesting conversation when you get to, now that all these players have podcasts and I get to hear clips dropping everywhere. Let's see what we have here. We've got start 1. We're going to do this one for Raymond. Start 1 between these wide receivers, Mike Evans, Puka Nacua, or Mike Williams. Mike Williams, I think you got to be on a wait and see. He's banged up already again.
Yeah. You got to wait and see what's going on with his health on that front. I think I honestly think I would go with Mike Evans. The Bears defense does not look good. Their secondary is not strong. And while last week we all thought that, the lean would be on Chris Godwin because the offensive line wouldn't protect Baker Mayfield enough that he would have to do that quick release. They did. It was that, but they shortened up the routes for Mike Evans, and that's how he ended up finding success there. So Evans would be the guy that I would go up against here for, against this Chicago team.
Better Boss says, who won week 1 in DFS? We'll get to that in the second hour. Before I forget, I want to remind you one more time, you can start a free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarm's all-pro subscription and get the Fantasy Football Draft Guide and Cheat Sheet for free. Go to fantasyalarm.com/draft. We will be back and continue this conversation. Feel free to step over and vote on these polls on my timeline because we're going to get that higher or lower segment. And also, if you have start-sit questions, the chat right here is a perfect place to drop them. We'll check in with those when we get back as well. You're listening to Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Sports Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm.
I like to eat my feelings. So when I'm like super sad, single serving pint sizes of Ben and Jerry's, I just start shoveling that in, and it makes me feel bigger and better. But so let's eat our feelings here. What we're gonna do today is we're gonna talk football players, food. We're gonna pair them up. Who is represented by what food? All right, I want to just shout out Hal Alexander in there for CMC, Christian McCaffrey, is Rocky Road ice cream. A little bit of everything.
Yeah,
Does
a good one, Hal.
I like it, man. You know it. I love me some Rocky Road ice cream. Bijan Robinson prime rib. You know what? Bijan Robinson prime rib with a baked potato and some cream spinach on the side. That's what I'm talking about. That is the King's dinner. And Bijan Robinson, I don't care if the dude from the Athletics says only 301, touches. You know what? In honor of Card Sharks, I'm going to say, guys, that I think that number is going to be a little bit higher there for Bijan Robinson. So get your knife, get your fork, you got your steak, you got your Bijan.
Yeah, that's what's up. You're on death row, and they say you get one last meal, and you just say Bijan Robinson.
Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. Love it.
I got to jump in on one real quick because Mr. Scamper said Kareem Hunt is candy corn, and I actually had a player, Tyler Boyd, was going to be candy corn for me, and basically it's that nobody likes it, but it's always there. It's always there, and somebody always puts their hand in and grabs some and has some, and they're like, well, and afterwards they're like, why did I eat that? That's Tyler Boyd. He always gets drafted, and he's just kind of there, and nobody knows why. Nobody knows why they take him. Nobody knows where it comes from. Where does the candy corn even come from? Like, it's just there. It's just there.
We are back right here, Lisa Ann and the now slender Howard Bender, feeling so good about his look. You notice your weight more in photos and video than when you're looking at yourself in the mirror every day and slimming down. I see you slimming down. We all see you here at Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor at the Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. And I want to remind you that Underdog Fantasy offers new contests and chances to win every day. Play their Pick'em contest by choosing higher or lower on 2 to 5 of your favorite players' stats. The more you pick, the more you can win. Choose from MLB, NFL, PGA, and more. Underdog Fantasy also offers drafts within leagues ranging from 2 to 12 players, and there's a brand new way to play Underdog Fantasy. Make picks during the game with an in-game Pick'em. All you need to do is sign up at fantasyalarm.com/underdog with the promo code ALARM. First-time depositors get a 100% match up to $100. Again, that's fantasyalarm.com/underdog, promo code ALARM.
Yum. Listen, they've got some great stuff going on over at Underdog Fantasy right now. I love the Pick'em contest, but what they're doing now also is they're throwing in, there's a new thing that they've got going on here over at Underdog where they give you a featured player. So that way you can basically, if you use that player in your Pick'em contest, then you're automatically entered into this bigger contest that they have where the high score for the week, if you played that player, gets 10 grand. I think it's like 10 grand winners or something like that they're doing. And this week, it's Tua Tagovailoa. And the number, but here's the funny thing. The number is 277.5 total yards for Tua. So, after him throwing for 460 yards, that like everybody's going to be sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to smash the over on that. You're in the Northeast. You know the weather that's going on right now. I'm told that in Boston, there's like a bomb cyclone coming or something like that. It's been thundering and raining for days on end, and it's supposed to be nightmarish on Sunday. So now when I look at that, I'm like, I think I might have to go lower. I'm going to put Tua into my pick'em contest, but I might have to go lower for Tua. I don't necessarily know if 277.5, if the weather's really that bad, is where we want to go.
That's where this becomes a slippery slope. But out of the 315 contestants that voted on my poll for Tua's 277 total yards, 72.4% said higher, 27.6% said lower. We consider that recency bias. We also know that we don't have enough information yet about exactly when this storm is going to hit. We have some news networks right now, Howard, saying it could hit us late Friday night through Saturday. And then some saying it could do a little switcheroo and it could hit us all day on Sunday. This is why my flights were delayed, just because the way these storms are rolling in. I've never seen rain like this in New York before. Like, especially not at this time of the year, but maybe in the spring we get some. These storms have been some of the most wild rain I've ever seen.
Yeah. So you got to watch the weather there. If you're going to set up your underdog pick'ems, make sure that definitely make sure that you add Tua into, whatever. I mean, like your favorite one. You can do two picks, you can do 5 picks. And you obviously you 6x your money, 10x your money, depending on how many they're in. But yeah, I would lock in Tua with like 2 or 3 of like your favorite picks, and see if you can't, outscore everybody else. 10 grand. Who's going to thumb their nose at 10 grand? Not me.
I am not. Uncle Sam is neither, because he's getting 5. It's a luxury tax on winnings. So we're actually only getting 5 grand. I like to keep things realistic so I don't overspend.
Can you do me a favor and teach my wife not to overspend?
Yeah, I don't want to plan on the 10 grand. I just want to plan on 5. Okay.
Okay.
I'm happy with that. You know what I mean? Because the tax has got to come out right away. I can't sleep at night. So no commercials are more triggering for me when I hear those commercials that are like for tax companies that help people get out of a burdenous debt. And people be like, I was $130,000 in tax. I'm thinking to myself, like, as soon as I hear them, I'm like, Howard, how do these people sleep? How can you live? I'd be so stressed out every moment of every day. I'd be working 24 hours a day. But let's get back to the most important thing. Calvin Ridley, who I was a believer in from the get of this season. I also am a huge believer in Tua. So, not Tua, in Trevor Lawrence. I love what Jacksonville put together last season. I knew this was going to hurt Evan Ingram, which made me lean more on Calvin Ridley than I did last year on Evan Ingram. But here's what we got at Underdog. Again, follow them on Twitter as well, so you are keyed in with all of the cool things they've got going on. And you can follow at Underdog Fantasy. Calvin Ridley, 72.5 receiving yards. We've got 300 votes. 15 people that voted on the first one did not vote on the second one. I don't know why. 300 votes. 74.3% think my boy Calvin Ridley is going for more than 72.5 yards, free receiving yards, and 25.7% said lower. I'm going higher just because I can't get over it and I want more.
I'll smash the higher on that as well. No doubt about it. You know what? Trevor Lawrence is 259.5 passing yards. I'll say higher on that one too. I'll just tandem these guys up once again. I mean, you're dealing with the Chiefs defense, and you know, it's just it's not so much that you're facing the Chiefs defense as much as it is you're trying to keep pace with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense, especially with Kelce back.
And with that shitty defense, Mahomes can go out and put up 5 touchdowns, but now he's facing somebody that can also go out there and put up 5 touchdowns. So I'm right there with you on this one. We do have a question. We're going to take a brief intermission from our higher lowers on Underdog and go to question from James. What are y'all thoughts on Roschon Johnson from the Bears? I thought he looked good despite it being garbage time. Your thoughts, Howard Bender?
So I like Roschon Johnson. And I'll tell you what, to me, the most telling aspect was the targets that he got, that he's the guy on the field in the passing attack. If we do believe that the Bears are going to be playing from behind a significant amount this season, You want the good pass blocker, the good pass catcher out there, and it seems to be Roschon Johnson, not Khalil Herbert or Deonta Foreman. So, I'm in on him. I've got him stashed on a couple of benches, and I'll just kind of see what happens with that situation. If you have a dead spot on your bench, then you can go after Roschon Johnson. I think he's a viable stash.
I also think Roschon could be a good filler in DFS before his price starts to really go up. If you're tinkering, right? And you're looking and you're like, okay, I feel like I have some, because you want to have a lineup that is different than everybody else's. That could be the one integral part. Maybe you're not going to triple what you pay, double it, you're good to go. Joe Burrow, Swaggy Joe. This was the most swagless I'd ever seen him. And he is super swaggy. Coming off of a game where he only threw for 82 yards. I threw that playing catch with my friends the other day. We now have the Joe Burrow passing yards total at Underdog Fantasy at 263.5. 275 votes. 64.7 people are believers in Joe Burrow going higher. And 35.3% are Joe Burrow going lower. They're matching up against Atlanta in Atlanta. I want to hear what you have to say first.
I think that I'm a believer in the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm a believer in Joe Burrow. I'm a believer in the fact that I'm going to play T. Higgins everywhere in DFS this week because he put up a 0. And everybody's going to expect that Jamar Chase is going to be the guy who they want to invest in. It's a tough matchup here with the pass rush. A lot of this is going to depend on the offensive line, or maybe Zach Taylor is getting Joe Burrow to with a quicker release so that you're not worried about the offensive line. They're going to have to make some adjustments to what happened against Cleveland, but if the weather is clear and Joe Burrow is feeling Joe Burrow-ish, listen, I'm happy to invest 263.5 passing yards. It's probably a little bit of a tall order, but would it shock me to see Joe Burrow throw for 275 and 2 touchdowns? No, it wouldn't. So I'm going to say the higher here.
This is in Atlanta, which is a dome game. Am I correct?
What, the Bengals this week?
Yeah, because they're playing in
Ravens.
Atlanta.
They're against the Ravens.
Oh my gosh, I skipped ahead a week. I'm on the schedule. I must have clicked week 3 instead of week 2. These things happen in live radio. We make mistakes. You're right. You're right. They're at home against the Ravens. Makes it very different. It's not a dome. It's gonna be weather. Maybe. you are correct on this one. All right, I put a poll out on one more. It was the last one I threw out here because I thought it was an interesting one. Anthony Richardson. This is at Underdog Fantasy right now. The total would be 199.5 passing yards, 307 votes. This was closer, showing you that, we're not sure yet what we expect from Anthony Richardson. Higher was only 40.4%. Lower was 59.6%. What do you think, Howard Bender? You taking Anthony Richardson for lower or higher 199.5 passing yards at Underdog Fantasy?
I was one of that 54% who said lower for Anthony Richardson. I think, listen, I think he's a solid guy, great physical specimen. He's going to have to learn how to slide so that he doesn't take the hits like you saw him take at the tail end of the game last week. But yeah, I think his passing still needs a lot of work. He's not going to get that deep play to Michael Pittman for 60 odd yards every single time. So, I think, as far as this goes, we've seen this with a lot of these mobile QBs when they first come into the league, that their passing numbers just really aren't there. They're not developed enough. And I don't think he's got enough in the receiving targets range. So I'm going to say lower for Anthony Richardson, lower than 199.5.
Now, here we are at the part of the exercise where we have DK, and I realize that the phone that I have DK on is in there, and I realize that I need to log in. Do you have last week's lineup available to you in your DK?
I do.
That would be I'm going to try and pull it up so I can assist you, but let me just get in here first so you can hold down the fort until I do that.
So EG0 Prime with the winning lineup here, 170.34 points. I don't know where you finished in this one, Lisa. I was down at 59.
Ooh, look at you.
I know, right? I felt good about that. 59, 123.34 for me. It was not enough to go up against Ego Prime here. Pat Mahomes. Okay, solid game. Nothing to write home about. Josh Jacobs got that blue snowflake there with 23 receiving yards, 48 rushing yards.
None of us like the blue snowflake. We want flames, 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 or Snickers. I don't know if you saw that, like when you win now on Yahoo, when you get your celebration that used to be confetti, it's now little mini Snickers bars that fly down at you.
Oh, I like a lot of Snickers bars flying at me. No doubt.
It grosses me out.
Come on.
I'm so offended.
Hit me with your bite-sized candies.
So offended by that. Okay, so I was at about I was doing well early in the challenge, and then it fell apart. I was not in the top 100. I'm not able to log in because I got to do the whole location thing because that's on this. When you have multiple devices, this stuff gets a little crazy sometimes. So I appreciate you leading in. I will not make that mistake.
What's your handle here?
The Lisa Ann.
The Lisa Ann. Let's see if they're going to show me. Why aren't they showing it to me?
No spaces. The Lisa Ann.
It's just the Lisa. Oh, there you are. You finished 108.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
107.98 points.
Okay.
A lot of blue snowflakes here. Akers, Jahmyr Gibbs, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore.
Ugh, DJ
Two
Moore.
Flames, Calvin Ridley, Commanders defense.
I cannot quit Calvin Ridley. Like, he'll be in every lineup. I don't care how much I pay. I did regret not spending big and putting in Tyreek Hill. And sometimes I think you're like, you might do this too, Howard. You're in so many leagues that for some reason when you're playing DFS, you're like, oh, I'm going to try somebody different because I already set all my lineups. I know I got Tyreek Hill going. Why would I have not just played Tyreek Hill in this challenge?
I don't know.
Kind of had to have him to win it.
I don't
Over
know.
200 yards for the kiddo.
If you were looking at the DFS content on Fantasy Alarm, you would have jammed him into your lineups.
Okay, so this week, that's what I'm going to do so I can beat you. And that's important stuff. You don't think I'm going to make it? But for everyone out there, we've got this DraftKings challenge. We're going to do it every week. Next week, I'll read the lineup like I promised. And this week I failed, as I do sometimes. But
do you want me to finish? Do you want me to finish Ego Prime's lineup here?
Yes, please.
All right. So the blue snowflake with Josh Jacobs, the blue snowflake hits Jamal Williams. That was a popular play there. Tyreek Hill then flame it up, 47.5 points. Tutu Atwell, flame it up, 20.9. Justin Jefferson, no flame, but 27 points. Hayden Hurst, flame it up, 15.10. Josh Reynolds in the flex, 12 points, no flame. Washington Commanders defense, 11 points with a flame. So 4 flames, 2 snowflakes, and a winning lineup for Ego Prime, 170.34 points.
I'll tell you what play in that lineup that surprises me the most. 2 of them. Tutu Atwell, of course, like that's forward thinking, really paying attention, really, and also a little bit of luck there because I don't think we were sure that was taking place. But Hayden Hurst, I mean, I know there was a time. I know you've resigned as the tight end whisperer, but I know there was a time. Is this the Hayden Hurst resurgence we've been waiting for? Because I'll tell you right now, my heart, Hunter Henry, first year, I quit him. Ugh, I went year after year, Hunter Henry, ever since he was with the Chargers. Yes, Hunter Henry, draft. No shares. What does he do? He plays really well. I don't have any shares of Hayden Hurst either. Is he going to do the same thing to me, Howard?
I mean, you're talking about 2 rock solid tight ends in the sense that Hayden, first off, Hunter Henry in New England now, Mike Gesicki lined up and took his snaps. 97% of his snaps were as a wide receiver. So Hunter Henry is that tight end in the Bill O'Brien offense. And we know what Bill O'Brien does for his tight ends, i.e. Gronk, and, God rest his soul, Aaron Hernandez. So we saw what Bill O'Brien does to the tight end position. So, Hunter Henry is definitely to watch. Hayden Hurst, here's the thing. I like him. I think he's incredibly talented. He just, it's the offensive schemes that he's been with. to do a part-time job in Cincinnati, you've got 3 crazy good wide receivers over there. With Baltimore, he was completely miscast, and now he's sitting here with Carolina. It's a rookie quarterback, and we know that rookie quarterbacks like to lean on their tight ends. And this wide receiving core, I mean, DJ Chark's banged up. Jonathan Mingo's a rookie. Adam Thielen is, older and a little bit more broken. I do think Hayden Hurst is worth somebody's time, especially in a season-long league where you would look at that. So, yeah, I like Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, I mean, I just gave up on Hunter Henry last season. It was my last season, and now I regret it. But when I was scouring the waiver wire, he was not sitting pretty there waiting for me. So that was a little bit more upsetting. Yeah, I like that lineup. That was very clever. I mean, Washington defense was, I guess, played across the board just because of the matchup. And now the Cowboys and the Jets defense are going to be a challenge to fit into your lineup with other studs because they're going to be pricey.
They're definitely going to be pricey. You're going to have to find the bargains somewhere. You're going to have to find them. Like this past week, it was the Rams receivers. It was Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell, who were those bargains, and Zay Flowers also.
Yes.
Another great bargain receiver who had himself a fantastic game. So, yeah.
Better Boss finished in 18th place.
Oh,
he was hurt by Antonio Gibson. Better Boss, you can get the link. I forgot to add you in the email this morning when I sent it out. The link is on the show rundown. I don't know if he has access to our stuff. If he does, if not, I'll email it later, and hopefully it's not full yet. How'd your bets do week 1?
I crushed my bets in week 1. I went 9-1 with my bets. The only bet that I lost was Lamar Jackson's rushing yards over. It was
higher. You had him higher.
I will 50. Say that, you know what? Actually, I supported Dan Servididdio on the Pittsburgh plus 2.5 points against San Francisco. So I guess I could say 9-2 because I was definitely a proponent of that bet. But I was on the Better Sports Betting show on Friday, and you guys can find this show on YouTube. The Fantasy Alarm YouTube. You make sure you get over there and check that out. And then on Monday's show, we did like a little recap montage of that. But yeah, I hit like all of my bets, like all of them except for those 2. What I put money down on was I didn't have money down on the Pittsburgh game, which is why I keep saying 9-1. That's where I went. Over 1.5 touchdowns for Kirk Cousins, over 1.5 touchdowns for Trevor Lawrence. I took the Jaguars laying the points. I mean, I did some damage.
It's good because week 1 is before everything truly adjusted. Like night 1, week 1 was trash for me. I got in the moment and put together a ridiculous parlay. There was no way it was going to hit. I had a Jahmyr Gibbs anytime touchdown. It didn't hit. But Monday night, I got in little parlay, and that was just a 2-legger, and it was the Jets for the win and the total points for the under. So I did hit on that. I
had the Jets plus 2, and I had the under there as well in that game on Monday night. So I guess you could tack on 2 more W's for me.
We're going to tack on a lot of W's in this next segment because we're going to talk about the DFS Week 2 watch list at the Fantasy Alarm. So if you want to tinker with that before you set your lineups, because remember, when I run these challenges, they are Thursday. They are the full slate of games. So you got to do your studying tonight or tomorrow at the Fantasy Alarm. Make sure you are ready to set that lineup. And we are going to talk about the spreads that Howard is watching, the game totals that Howard is watching, and all of you, your lineup questions. Better Boss says Gibbs fell down or would have scored. That's the post. That's the message.
Way it goes. The turf monster. It gets you every time.
The turf monster gets you every single time. I'm going to throw one more out here. Devonta Smith. Let's talk about this one. Underdog again. Higher or lower? 61.5 receiving yards.
You know what? I like the higher on this one here for him. It's Minnesota. Not a great pass defense. I do like Brian Flores, their defensive coordinator, but he just doesn't have the personnel to jump in on there. I think there'd be another big focus on AJ Brown, which gives me Devonta Smith I like the player a lot. I mean, to think that he goes 70, 80 yards this weekend with a touchdown, I don't see a problem with that.
I like that as well. Have him in quite a few leagues. AJ Brown was much harder to get than Devonta Smith when it came to the rankings and drafts. And then the last one here is Christian McCaffrey. Higher or lower? 75.5 receiving yards.
75.5 receiving yards for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's got to,
rushing yards, rushing.
Oh, rushing.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Then I'll say lower. I'll say lower because I do think that, I mean, he would have to really break a long touchdown run, which I mean is obviously doable. But I think that, when you're looking at this matchup for San Francisco, and they're taking on
the Rams.
The Rams. Yeah. I feel like you're going to want to just, in order to avoid the pass rush and Aaron Donald, you throw the little screen passes out to your running back and, because as soon as Aaron Donald just over pursues, bloop it right over him and McCaffrey's off to the races. So I'll say that, if it were receiving yards, I'd probably hit the higher on that, but I'll say lower for McCaffrey, 78.5 rushing yards.
Byron has a question, and I want you, maybe, Byron, to frame it because I want to be sure I have it correct. Should I go with Tutu Atwell with Tyreek Hill? Would that be in DFS? Is that in a season-long league? Can you guess at that question, Howard?
Can I guess? Should I go with Tutu?
Should I go with Tutu Atwell with Tyreek Hill? So I guess pairing them together.
I mean, it's like, I mean, that's what won the DFS contest, but I mean, are you really going to try and run it back with the same two guys?
No, you're not going to try and run it back. No, that's just incredibly unrealistic. No, you're right. Overall, in your fantasy leagues, I haven't checked all of my best ball totals yet. I don't know about you, and it's probably because I'm the most devastated because out of the 40 best ball draft site leagues I did, I probably have Aaron Rodgers in half of them.
The beauty of best ball is that I don't look at my teams
till the end of the season
until the season's over.
That's what I'm doing this year.
I mean, I'm like logging into like 40 season long leagues that I got to make waiver moves on, right? So I don't have time to check on my best ball. I had a hard enough time checking on my teams that waivers ran last night to see if I got any of the guys.
So Byron says, no, he picked up Tutu off waivers. Okay, so you picked up Tutu. Again, we kind of want to know who your other receivers are, right? Before we give a lineup question. So I would give us your receivers and we'll be able to tell you who is the great pairing. But kudos to you for having Tyreek because the guy runs at a different pace.
I mean, how many times is he going to run that crossing slant? And not get hit or tackled or anything. I mean, as soon as he starts running that route, if I'm the safety, I'm like, you know what? I'll just take the penalty here for like a defensive hold or something like that. I won't do a pass interference, but I'll grab onto the back of his jersey by his numbers and just be like, all right, you know what? Yeah, holding. Oh, I'm sorry. 5 yards, first down.
We're going to get to these team totals. We're also going to get to the lines that Howard Bender likes. Don't forget to check out everything going on at Fantasy Alarm and Underdog Fantasy. You're listening to Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor with Howard Bender and Lisa Ann on Better Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm.
Like Devon Levi started off in the friend zone and now like he could possibly be wife material. So it is exceptionally hard to trust a rookie goalie in the NHL. The kid is what? He's 21. Like, okay. And he is going to the Buffalo Sabres. But we've all agreed that the Buffalo Sabres are at least a somewhat better hockey team on paper. Again, it's hard to trust a rookie goalie. We've seen future Hall of Fame goalies like, Fleury in his first year struggle, right? Carey Price in his first year struggle. It is tough for goalies to come in and have success. That being said, nobody outside of maybe a Buffalo sports fan can tell me who the two goalies on their roster are, because I didn't know until this morning, until I was reminded that it was Eric Comrie and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. And I was like, okay, well, he has the crease to himself. So all he can do is lose it. That's all he can do. Buffalo is going to be a fun team to watch, which means maybe Devon Levi ends up in what I call the Martin Jones syndrome, which is a goals against average is pretty up there. Save percentage is not very good, but he's going to finish with 35 wins because he's just going to play a lot. And it's going to be that back and forth hockey. The Atlantic Division is not very good, right? There are some teams that are going to regress. So there's opportunities here for Buffalo to do well. And I think his over-under on wins is set at 24.5. So again, there's a lot of things that I may not trust about him, but as a 13th goalie off the board, and I think that is a reach at 13. I think a lot of people have him farther back than that. So he may be 13 on NHL.com's list, but you may end up and show up in your Yahoo or your ESPN draft, and they haven't ranked probably outside of the top 20. So I would have no issue as a second goalie going with Levi, because like, who's taking his spot? Nobody. And volume at one point, if you're in a league that doesn't penalize you for losses, if you're in a league that rewards saves and save bonuses like, for daily, DraftKings does, he has all that working for him. So if it doesn't work out, all right, fine. Then you can go and pick up whoever is there. But it is his net to lose. I understand the risk. I will definitely take, because that's how you win championships, right? You got to take risks to win them. If you're safe, you're going to finish, eliminated in the first round and you had a good time. Or you can try to win the championship on draft day.
As promised, we are back. Lisa Ann and Howard Bender right here on Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor at the Bettor Network, as well as Fantasy Alarm. And we have an answer right here from our friend Byron that I'm still a tiny bit confused about. So he did pick up Tutu off the waivers, but he says he has Tyreek, Calvin Austin, and Tutu.
So what is he looking to do? Does he start? I mean, you obviously start Tutu Atwell over Calvin Austin.
Okay.
Like, why is that even a question? Why are you even rostering Calvin Austin?
I was wondering, this is why I'm in a conundrum, because I was surprised. How many people are in this league, Byron? We want to know. Is it a 10 or a 12? And why is Calvin rostered? I wonder who'd you give up to get, because you had a trash on there if you picked up Tutu off the waivers and dumped somebody else.
Right.
Might be an 18-team league is what I'm thinking, but let's talk about these spreads you're watching. Bills -9 over the Raiders. Are the Raiders going to have another trash season?
I don't know if they're going to have a trash season. I think that there are some inherent issues with them. I think the big problem, or for me, is why I'm looking at Buffalo -9 right now, and that is my lean, is that I think Josh Allen and the Bills come back a lot stronger. The best part about that Raiders defense is Max Crosby in the pass rush. Their secondary is mediocre at best. Their linebackers have a tendency to be a little on the sluggish side. Their defensive line is So, I think that when you're looking at this with Buffalo, I think that if you expect Buffalo to do what they're supposed to do, I think that they, at home week 2 after a loss to the Jets, I think they slap around the Raiders like.
I agree with you on that one too. Byron said it's in your commissioner league, Lisa. I commissioned 4 leagues, Byron, and I'm in over 20. So I can't remember everybody else's lineups. It's hard to believe, but I'm not sure which league he means, because one of them is a 10 team and the others are all 12. So we'll figure that out. But we do have a lineup question. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins. Ryan needs 2, Howard. Again, that's Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, and DeAndre Hopkins for our friend Ryan. I love DeAndre, but man, when we talk about Ryan Tannehill,
he looked terrible.
Terrible. And I felt really bad because I don't want him to look terrible, because that's not why D-Hop went there. He looked terrible.
Terrible. Which puts me on the other 2 receivers immediately until I see, Tannehill snap out of it. I mean, it's not a... the matchup this week, Tennessee is hosting the Chargers, and the Chargers don't really have a great defense, a great secondary. However, what do? You run on the Chargers. That's the game plan. So you're gonna run hard with Derrick Henry and see what happens in the passing attack. But yeah, no, I would use the other two guys over D-Hop this week, regretfully, because I have a lot of shares of D-Hop as well.
I am right there with you. So you're going to go with Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper there, Ryan. Thanks for the question. If anybody else has a lineup question, please drop them in the chat and I will get them out to me and Howard and get you set. Seahawks plus 5.5 versus the new look Lions.
Well, all right. So originally I was looking at this, line, and I was like, man, if we're so in on the Lions and the Seahawks looked as bad as they did in week 1, like, why isn't the point spread bigger? Why is it 5.5? But now what we're dealing with right now is 2 injured offensive linemen for Seattle. The game, the game total, it opened at 51 and now it's down to like 46.5 or 47.5. So, I mean, I'm still like, the lean right now is Seattle with the getting the points because, I just think that I don't want to like overreact or whatever, but I have to wait and see what happens with this offensive line and see if they can't, put something together over the next 2 days in practice to have me a little bit more in on it. But, I mean, listen, am I going to ever rule out Geno Smith with DK Metcalf? No, probably not.
Facts. All right, we've got a good one here from Dylan. It's a series, so I'm going to read them to you in order of delivery, Howard. So Dylan says he just made a move, more than a move. Full PPR. I gave up Jamar Chase. My heart bleeds. That's my comment. Mostert, Jamison Williams. In return, I got ETN, Flowers, and Addison. My starting running backs were James Conner and Mostert. I also have Calvin Ridley, AJ Brown, and Andre Hopkins. I felt I had crazy depth at wide receiver. I love the Jags offense with ETN. I don't know if I wouldn't have given up Jamar Chase for any rhyme or reason.
Yeah,
and if I was going to give up a wide receiver in that realm because I had that kind of a depth, Dylan, with your lineup, I would have given up Hopkins, though I don't want to just because of the quarterback play. I'm looking at Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow with a lot more upside. And again, this isn't about Hopkins. It's about his quarterback. So I'm looking at not as much upside with Hopkins. Would you have made this move? Would you have ever, week 2, given up Jamar Chase for any reason?
No. And I mean, listen, he's getting back decent components. Jordan Addison, I love, obviously Travis Etienne is solid. But here's the problem. Here's the problem that I do have with Etienne. I think Etienne has a great game this week because it's going up against the Chiefs. And while Chris Jones is there on the defensive line, the best way, like I said, to neutralize a good, strong pass rusher, a good run blocker, a run stuffer, is to either run an outside zone scheme or, little dump offs to him. So I think Etienne thrives in that matchup. The problem is this: Travis Etienne had 5 touchdowns last year.
Yep.
Only one of those touchdowns came inside the 10-yard line. He doesn't get the touches there. And we already saw Tank Bigsby roll in and get that touchdown last week as opposed to Etienne. So I do worry a little bit about that situation. You gave up a premier player in Jamar Chase. And I just don't know if you got back the return that you really should have.
We got a little rhyme or reason here. Dylan says, part of the reason for the trade is I'm a Ravens fan. Well, we're going to tell you right now, do not run your fantasy football team with the heart of a fan. Let's go to your next spread that you're watching, Howard. You got the Bears +3 versus Tampa Bay.
So here's where I'm kind of looking at the Bears as the underdog. I know they're on the road, but we did expect a lot more out of the Bears with Justin Fields taking the next step, especially that he's got a wide receiver 1 in DJ Moore. You still have, a supportive ground game. It's not the be all end all, but it's still supportive enough to help you through it. And then you've got Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. So we had certain expectations for Chicago. They looked atrocious in week 1, absolutely atrocious. But are we overreacting? Because why are we elevating Tampa Bay? They beat Minnesota, who we already know their defense is suspect as it is. And so, it's Baker Mayfield. It's a makeshift offensive line. It's not the weaponry is good in a guy like Evans, a guy like Godwin. but I think that's kind of it, really. So I worry about what happens with people expecting too much out of Tampa Bay. I'll take the road dog plus the 3 points.
The next one here, and I'm sending my love to Deb in advance for her Giants heartbreak, but the Giants -5 over the Cardinals. This should be a get-right game, as we talked about, for Daniel Jones. Not having Darren Waller is completely a bummer, but let's talk about this one. You're going Giants -5 over the Cardinals.
I mean, that's definitely that's the lean that I'm going with right now. Again, there's that bit of fear, wondering, is the line a little too low, and is that kind of the sucker bet of the Giants only need to cover 5? Yeah, easily. So I worry that that's the sucker bet, especially because it's on the road for the G-men. But damn, I mean, Arizona's not a good team, not a good defense. And really, I mean, could the Giants possibly not bounce back against them? Could Saquon Barkley struggle in this one? So, I might lean towards the fact that I think the Giants win this game, but I might actually turn around and take the Cardinals with the points.
And I'm going to say this. We always say like the East to West Coast travel is a bit different. Not that players aren't used to this, but early on in the season, they are lucky. It's a 4:05 game. So it's not the 1:05 game, which feels like 10 o'clock in the morning, on the East Coast. So that does help a bit, but all of these things matter, right, Howard? That's why you observe it early. You start to monitor the lines. The last spread here that you are watching is the Broncos -3.5 over the Commanders. How did you feel about what you saw so far out of Russell Wilson?
I thought it was okay. It wasn't great, but I'm willing to say that it is a work in progress. The whole throwing to every single guy in the first quarter was driving me up a wall. We don't need to spread it around. This isn't Little League. Every kid does not need to play an inning. So stop.
By the way, we're not keeping score. Both teams win like Little League does now.
Right? You stop with the little Jordan Humphrey stuff, guys. I mean, let's but then all of a sudden you started to see certain things click. That touchdown catch by Cortland Sutton, knowing that, he got 4 straight targets, bim, bam, boom. And that's what Joe Lombardi's offense does. It funnels targets to the X receiver. And so once they got into that groove, things looked a lot better. I love the pass catching work of Javonte Williams as well. The fact that dude saw 6 targets, he didn't do anything with them.
Doesn't matter.
Right? Well, yeah, 5 catches for 4 yards, but 6 targets, 5 catches in a PPR format. That's 5 extra points right now that you're looking at. So I think it's a work in progress. Now, here's the thing about Denver. All right. Coming into the game over the last 5 years, they were 11-6-3 against the spread in September games. Teams have a lot of trouble dealing with the altitude in Denver early on in the season. That's what happens. They're not, still kind of working their way into, game shape and in-season shape.
Yeah.
And so that's, so the fact that Denver did not cover, they lost outright actually, and did not cover that spread. I look at the last 5 years here, and it's been a lot more. It's been 500 over the last, what do I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, last 4 games in September, not including last week. It's been basically either, it's been 1-1 or 1-0-1 in covering that spread. So I'm going to play the percentages here, and I'm going to take Denver. I'm going to lay the 3.5 points and figure that, the Raiders are used to going into Denver, whether it's September or not. This week, on the other hand, for Washington, they might not be ready for it. So I'm going to take Denver. I'm going to lay the points just based on percentages here.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, especially at the beginning of the season. Camp is not the pace of a real game. And all of these things start to change when you're back in this, a lot more aggressive of a routine. Things are real. Let's go to the highest game totals right here. We talked about some of these earlier. We're going to go through Kansas City, Jacksonville. The total right now is 51. I truly think the Travis Kelce news, once we're guaranteed he's playing, could adjust this line. So if you want to tap the over now, you're at a good spot.
I'm ready to hit that over already. I've laid down the over on that game. I've laid my bets for that game as far as, Trevor Lawrence props. as well as Calvin Ridley props. And I think, Travis Kelce coming back, definitely. With the news official, could it jump to 52, 53? Yeah, probably, which is definitely the reason why you want to jump on that now at 51 for sure.
All right, take a beat over here. Going to the chat. Raymond says, Miles Sanders or Javonte Williams this week, Howard? Where are you going?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Miles Sanders at home going up against the New Orleans Saints. I don't love the Saints ground game. I really, really don't love the Saints, like their run stuffing. Cameron Jordan is like the veteran defensive lineman. The dude's 34 years old with like the mileage on him of like an 80-year-old. So, you got to worry about that. And then it's like, some raw rookies on that defensive line. But I think with Javonte Williams at home against Washington, knowing what his role is in that offense as far as the pass catching goes, I'm going to lean Javonte here and bank on a much better game from Denver.
Raymond, thank you for your question. Anybody else? You got 15 minutes here to get your questions answered by me and Howard. Put them right there in the chat. Next game, we're going to talk about the totals. Minnesota, Philadelphia, the total right now is 48.5.
It's a very, very interesting thing. 48.5 from Minnesota against Philadelphia. I'm kind of leaning on the over. I know that we bet the American public bets what they want to see, not what they are actually going to see, which is why the unders hit so much. But in this game here, the Eagles, they need a better showing than they had against the New England Patriots. Minnesota's definitely looking for redemption. Justin Jefferson's going to probably struggle with Darius Slay. We've seen that happen in the past. But when you've got Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and Alexander Madison, there's enough weaponry there for Minnesota. But I do think that Minnesota's defense is bad enough that Philadelphia is going to kind of run up the score on them a little bit.
Well, and also if Dallas Goedert can do something, then that's going to add to the points. I got to tell you, giving me a donut, giving me carbs. I don't eat carbs. I don't know how I still did it. I'll tell you how. I won my matchup 136.90 to 118.62, still getting a 0 from Dallas Goedert. Do you want to hear my lineup?
Oh, love to hear that. The donut. I love the senseless carb line, by the way.
Okay, what with Derek Carr? 20.6. Amari Cooper, low game, 6.7. Deebo Samuel, 11.3. DJ Moore, 4.5. Christian McCaffrey, 29.9. Nick Chubb, 21.7. And then Dallas Goedert with the donut and Tony Pollard in the flex, give me 21.2. Boom. Harrison Butker is my kicker and Philadelphia defense going strong.
You got some fucking killer running backs on that team. Chubb and Pollard and McCaffrey. How does that happen?
I have Tyler Algier on my bench.
How does that happen?
He gave me 20. How does it happen that I had Cole Kmet sitting there and thought, no way, it feels gross to play Cole Kmet over Dallas Goedert. Now, luckily, I still won this. But Cole Kmet on my bench with 9.4 points and Dallas Goedert in my lineup forgetting to show up for the game.
I mean, yeah, I get that. And, again, Bill Belichick likes to take away the weaponry, and it's a tough defensive matchup. I would have started Goddard over Cole Kmet any day of the week. I don't understand how somebody in that league allows you to draft Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, and Nick Chubb. That's just a league-winning trio of running back. I don't give a crap who your wide receivers or tight ends are. That is a ridiculous running back core.
I have Nico Collins on my bench, who wasn't going to play him over Amari Cooper, though he did outscore Amari Cooper. Ew. But again, I was just in quite a few leagues with. And by the way, my league mates were messaging me, through the week before the leagues, like I'm going 0 RB, and I'm thinking, this is fantastic. You all go 0 RB. I'll make up my love on my wide receivers later, because look at this core. The fact that I have Algier on my bench, unbelievable, right? I am good to go with Pollard. My toughest decision is going to be, do I ever play Algier? or do I just have him here for bye weeks? Because I cannot sit McCaffrey, I cannot sit Nick Chubb, and I cannot sit Tony Pollard.
I agree with you completely. And it's just the smart move. If you're going to let me have these running backs, I'll definitely be able to build in the middle. And you don't need, because when you've got game-breaking running backs like this, you don't need to have game-breaking wide receivers. It'd be nice to have them, but are you glued to that? No, not at all.
Not at all. All right, we got a couple questions here. We've got Puka or Lockett PPR this week. I would like to hear how Lockett's doing, a little bit banged up. Am I correct, Howard? So I'd watch that news closely.
Head injury. He came back into the game, but then I think he left a little early in the, later in the game too. I would take a look and see what happens, because, I'd probably just go Puka anyway, because if Seattle is down 2 offensive linemen, you're not going to be able, you're just not going to be able to run the routes that, Tyler Lockett is, usually running. So I feel like that's a dangerous spot to be in.
And we've got another one here from Jacob. Jacob needs a flex in PPR. Javonte, McLaurin, Sutton, Justice Hill, or Flowers, and need a flex. So just one. You and I are big Cortland Sutton believers. I can't go Justice Hill, so let's just knock that out right now. Can we just take that name out? Can we put him on the bench with Tyree Cohen? Okay. Terry McLaurin, Javonte, Sutton, and Flowers now become our options. I think I'm still leaning Sutton.
I love Cortland Sutton. I love Cortland Sutton.
I know you do. I think of you every time I hear his name.
I do dig Javonte. Like I said, I do. I'll go with you with Sutton. I'll stay on that. McLaurin with the turf toe, you don't know what's going to happen. I really did like the debut of Zay Flowers.
Me too. I have him in a couple leagues. He's tucked away on my bench. I really liked him too, but I think you have to take advantage of Sutton, especially with Jerry Jeudy being out. We know that once Jerry Jeudy does come back, he's not going to be that focal point. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree with that statement.
Let's go with another highest game totals here. We're going to go to Las Vegas Raiders, Buffalo Bills. Buffalo 40. The total points is 47. I think Buffalo is going to come out swinging. That was an embarrassing loss, no doubt about it. So what you say here? Las Vegas, Buffalo 47. You like that total? You think it's going to go higher? You think there's going to be any movement there? I'm thinking about injuries or anybody on both of those teams.
Yeah, I'm probably going to kind of lean on the under a little bit, because I feel like maybe the Raiders don't score as many points as they should. And I'm not saying that Buffalo is going to run the score up on them, but could you see a 31-14 game, 31-7 game, in that realm? I think that's definitely a possibility. So
Shrimp Daddy says Buffalo may get 30 on their own, but that still does though mean that Las Vegas has to get 17.
Yes, that is
true.
A
little math here. A little math here. Okay, let's go to Baltimore, Cincy. We know that Swaggy Joe is going to be swaggy again. The total points, this one is 46.5. How you feeling about it?
How am I feeling about it? 46.5. Did I freeze? No.
No,
I was like thinking about it. I'm like, damn.
Think I'm reading our next question that James
I'm gonna. You know what? I'll just go on the under, because when in doubt, side with the under. Because if anything does happen in that game, anybody gets hurt or whatever, then you're playing that percentage. I love me some Swaggy Joe. I love me some T Higgins and some Jamar Chase. But man, you know what, Lamar.
All right, well, you think of that. Let's
fuck it. Give me the over. Sorry, excuse my language.
Please, it's okay. I dropped an F-bomb this morning on Mad Dog Sports Radio. 8 o'clock in the morning.
How's Babchick, by the way?
Babs is good. He's good. You know, Evan just left to go work for ESPN. Very exciting. And then, like a week later, Willie Calhoun got scooped by Carton. So there's been a big shakeup there. He was in the studio alone. He looked lost. It was great to see him. He's a Jets fan. He took his son to the game, and he shot this cute video of his son after Rodgers' injury. He goes, "So you know this feeling? This is what it feels like to be a Jets fan." So just wrap your heart around these emotions and understand. So James says, my last question, should I trade T. Higgins and perhaps David Montgomery? Don't want to let him go yet, if you ask me, to get a quarterback in my super flex because I lost Rodgers. Right now I have Jimmy G and Carr as my QBs. This is why in a super flex, I always draft 3 quarterbacks because you get into these situations. I don't want to give up Montgomery, but I understand you're afraid having just Jimmy G and Derek. Oh, he did have 3. Okay, he had Rodgers. Derek Carr played well. Jimmy G, I'd be worried about. Yeah, you kind of need another quarterback, right?
I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, just pick up Zach Wilson rather than blow up your team for a quarterback. Just pick up Zach Wilson and just piece it together. Keep your strength there with Montgomery and Higgins, and handle your business that way. I think, you know, and because here's the other thing also. It's a super flex league. You don't have to start a quarterback in that super flex spot. You
True.
can start a wide receiver.
Listen, I've done it with wide receivers and tight ends when I've had to, rather than making a desperate move.
Yeah.
And you're right. And it sometimes works out real well. So that's a great, you don't have to put a quarterback in there. I want to remind you all that Underdog Fantasy offers new contests and chances to win every day. Play Pick'em by choosing higher or lower on 2 to 5 of your favorite player stats. The more you pick, the more you can win. This week's 10 different people will win $10,000 if they submit a Pick'em entry with a designated player. Stay tuned for this week's $100,000 pick. Sign up at fantasyalarm.com/underdog and then use the promo code ALARM. First-time depositors get a $100, 100% match on $100. So, okay, we've got one more here, a team total I'm going to get to before we wrap this bad boy up. My boy, Tua, Miami, New England. 46.5 is the total points.
And well, you know, again, another one where we're really concerned about the weather here. I'll go with the under and hope that bomb cyclone hits. How about that? I will bank on that.
I will be bringing in the cushions on my patio furniture for sure. Okay. This, you know, I have to have weights on my patio furniture, Howard. It's the law in a building, so it doesn't fly over on a thing. Well,
Smart.
there's 50 pounds on each of them. Some of these storms have had these things sliding across the thing. So I will be bringing them in. They send an email saying, please bring in everything for your porches. We're having a bomb cyclone. So I got that today. James also just added Wilson is available. He said, yeah, you're right. Appreciate the feedback. And I'm thinking he's talking Russell Wilson, and he can pull him without having to blow up his team, just like you said.
Zach, yeah, I'm sure he means Zach.
Oh, you're right. Oh my gosh. This is the first name, second name basis thing. You're right. Zach Wilson, not Russell
you know what?
Wilson.
I love it. Should I start Wilson? No. What about Zay? Should I start Zay? Well, is that Jones or is that Flowers? Like
you got to go first today, or at least initial, but yes, pick up Zach Wilson. And Byron says he thinks this game's going to be an over. I'm with you, Howard, on the under only because of the weather.
Yep. Got to deal with the weather. Got to deal with it.
Another Wednesday night just ticks by. You and I together here doing our thing, knowing that when we get off air, what are we going to do? We're going to check the waiver wires again, see what landed, what didn't. We're going to retinker with our lineups because tomorrow night's game is going to come fast. You're going to be doing live streams. You're going to be on Fantasy Alarm. You're going to be busy. And the next thing you know, it's game time. And you need to be sure that you did all the best moves you possibly could in every single lineup on all 200 of your leagues.
I'll do my best. I will do my best.
Everybody, don't forget to follow at Bettor Network and at Fantasy Alarm. Check out everything Fantasy Alarm has to offer, as well as Underdog. We will see you right here again. Share this YouTube video. Make sure you're subscribed as well. Lisa Ann and Howard Bender. Thank you, Brian Burns, in the studio for being a great DJ and a great facts person in the chat. We appreciate you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Network. That's my alarm letting me know that it's 30 seconds away. I don't know why I did it backwards. Lisa Ann Does Fantasy Bettor on the Bettor Network and Fantasy Alarm. We're out. Okay.